The year is 1983. Fraggle Rock is released, NASA launches the STS-7 mission, and Nintendo Entertainment System hits store shelves. It took Nintendo a long time to get to this point, having to work with Toys R Us to get their console even sold after the failure of the Atari 2600, but that's not what this video is about. Nintendo had a lot of standout titles: Mario, Zelda, Kirby, and a little game called Metroid. Metroid was a revolutionary title, being far ahead of its time for an early NES game. A game where you play as Samus Aran, bounty hunter tasked with eliminating the Metroids and defeating the evil Mother Brain. But at the end of the day, is this one of the NES games that actually aged well like Super Mario Bros. 3, or did it not stand the test of time? It did not stand the test of time. Metroid 1 is a disaster. The game is like 20% good ideas and 80% terrible. Like the fact you have to grind enemies every time you want to heal. Whoever came up with that should have been fired. You know the whole joke about how you have to bomb every single tile in a Metroid game in order to progress? It's generally a bit of an over-exaggeration. Well, in Metroid 1 it's actually true. You have to bomb the most random spots that not even Sherlock Holmes would be able to figure out. I got a lot of respect for it, but boy did it not age well. Metroid II released for the Game Boy in 1991. Now, I haven't played this game before, so I can't review it, but from what I can generally tell, it's actually considered by many to be much better designed than the first Metroid game, which just shows how much design is integral to Metroid, and it definitely seemed to be a solid step in the series. Now, if Metroid 2 was a small step, then Super Metroid was a gigantic rocket-powered trampoline jump 50,000 miles in the air. Everything was improved. The bosses, the power-ups, the enemy and level design was all cranked to the max. There's so much to say about it, but I don't think I need to say any more. All you need to know is that Super Metroid is one of the greatest games of all time. Now, after Super Metroid, Nintendo had a little bit of an issue. Metroid was a series that improved with every game. Metroid 1 to Metroid 2 was an improvement, and Metroid 2 to Super Metroid was an improvement. But then that all changed when Metroid Fusion released. It's alright. It came out for the GBA in 2002, and while I haven't played it for myself, it's generally considered a pretty good title in the series. Definitely not as solid as Super Metroid, but still a good successor. Now let's take a quick detour and talk about Samus Returns, released on the 3DS in 2017. Samus Returns was a remake of Metroid II, developed by a new studio called Mercury Steam, which is another 2D Metroid game I haven't played, but I digress. Because it was developed by a different company, it added a couple of new ideas, like the inclusion of free aiming and a new melee counter move. Once again, a pretty solid title. Now this is the part of the video where it's going to get a little more analytical, since this is also a school project, and if it was just a rant review of Metroid, it probably wouldn't grade well. So, let's talk about the making of Metroid Dread. After the creation of Metroid Fusion, series producer Yoshi Sakamoto had already started planning the next game as a DS sequel. However, he dropped the concept at the time because he believed the console was not powerful enough to bring his idea to life. Given how Metroid Prime ended up on the system, I don't blame him. Yoshio Sakamoto wanted to produce fear-based gameplay, and I don't imagine this thing would have been able to do that. In the years following, he kept attempting to make the game, but his team seemed incapable to create the game they originally envisioned. The game was most likely to be shelved permanently by Nintendo, forgotten forever, until Mercury Steam rolled around and helped create the remake of Metroid II, which was a way to sort of test the water with the studio. They then finally worked together to create the game that Yoshio always dreamed of. And boy did it end up being good. Metroid Dread was another fantastic Metroid adventure, and honestly should have won Game of the Year, let's be honest. Also, side note, I completely forgot that Metroid Zero Mission exists, which was a remake of the first Metroid game released for the GBA. It doesn't really matter as much to this video, but I thought I'd still mention it since it was a pretty solid title. Anyways, like I was saying, Metroid Dread should have won Game of the Year. But instead, some random indie game I don't care about won, so that's fun. So yeah, that's my series review of Metroid. I hope you enjoyed. I'll put the grade I got in the comments if you care about that. But I got one last thing to say. Metroid, video games, school, none of that really matters. The only reason I made this video was to tell you to subscribe to my YouTube and Twitch.